Hello, Michael over here. Quick video today. I want to talk a tiny little bit about thesis statements, and then I want to get into middles or body paragraphs. So far, you turned in your research question and rationale, and that was kind of your starting point, right? What do you think you might want to write about? From that research question, maybe from my comments, you changed that research question to maybe what we would call a working thesis. And a working thesis is simply that. It's a thesis that is not final. As I mentioned in class, a lot of students will create a thesis and then hang on tooth and nail to that thesis and not want to change anything in the body paragraphs. So keep that thesis as a working thesis. Is something that you're willing and able to change as you go. As E.M. Forster said, how do I know what I think until I see what I say? As you're writing, you're going to uncover more about that topic, and your thesis is probably going to change. Now, once you have your thesis and you have that thesis statement, you probably have your introduction, you're going to start to move on to your body paragraphs. So the body paragraphs serve as what? So the body paragraphs serve as evidence. Trimble uses this example of a lawyer stating a case, right? The evidence. We don't simply want to say, here's a piece of evidence and move on. Again, if you watched the previous video on models of argument, you'll know that the Toolman model is very, very good at this, is saying, here's my claim, here's the evidence to back up the claim, and here's the connection, the warrant that connects the two things together. Each body paragraph basically should be doing that, should be providing some evidence that supports a claim, and that claim is probably going to be your topic sentence, as we talked about in class on Monday, right? Your topic sentence is like a little mini thesis statement, little baby thesi, as I like to call them. That claim will be supported by the evidence in the paragraph that follows. So Trimble starts the section middles with a quote from H.L. Mencken, which is, "My style of writing is chiefly grounded upon an early enthusiasm for Thomas H. Huxley, the greatest of all masters of orderly exposition. He taught me the importance of giving to every argument a simple structure." So that simple structure is how you're building your court case. How are you building out the evidence? What I think is also important here is it's about orderly exposition. And this means that as you're writing, you're very carefully choosing the order in which you want to present your evidence. Common wisdom is that your best evidence appears at the beginning of the paper and at the end of the paper. So whatever your weakest evidence is generally goes in the middle. Definitely that's true with a 5-paragraph essay. Your reader is probably going to forget what is in the middle. So there are some notes, I have a couple notes, a couple of things I want to point out about middles. So on page 29, Trimble says the middle section of an essay is inseparable from the opening since it explains and develops the thesis. Again, if you kind of go back to the analogy of the court case, the introduction is the opening statement, is establishing what your argument is and what the background or context for that argument is. What follows is an expansion of that. In other words, my intro paragraph might be sufficient for people who agree with me. But for people who don't necessarily agree with me or do not have the same expertise as I have, they need some convincing, right? And I need to think about my audience a little bit more. What do they need to know? What pieces of evidence, what examples, situations can I provide them to get them on board with me? Also on page 29, Trimble says, expository writing is informative writing. Its primary goal is to explain. Now, we are in the act of writing expository pieces, right? As I've said it before, my goal with any piece of writing is to bear in mind what I want my reader to know, do, or believe at the end, right? I want to inform and explain something. On page 30, Trimble says, implicit in most expository writing, however, is a secondary goal to persuade. So now we have this two-part thing. I'm going to explain my position, and now I'm going to try and persuade you that my position is the correct position. Finally, my fourth sort of little note here is that also on page 30, Trimble says the whole point, finally, is to have your reader respond, yes, I understand now, you convinced me. And bear in mind, some of your readers may have some expertise. Maybe they disagree with you, and you can build a case to convince them that you're right. Some of them may not have any information or have that background, so you're convincing them based on new information that you're providing to them. One of the things I do like, and one of the things that you all pointed out in your answer to the question about middles from the reading quiz, was that you like this checklist that Trimble provides. And it's kind of at the beginning of the chapter. He introduces this analogy of the lawyer, as I mentioned. And on page 31, at least of the current edition of the book, he gives us 5 steps, a checklist. Do you have a clear, well-defined thesis? Now, that may be a working thesis until you get to the end. Do you have a clear strategy? How are you building your argument? What's the first little thing that you need to prove to your reader? Third is clear evidence. What is the clear and concise evidence that you can provide? And again, we're going to go into this a little bit more on how to incorporate quotations and how to incorporate evidence. We'll look at the PI method, among others. The fourth is a clean narrative line. And the clean narrative line is just another way of saying, does the essay flow smoothly? Is there a clear trajectory, or are you just throwing a bunch of information at your reader and hoping that they kind of pick up the pieces or make the connections? And the final piece, the fifth piece, is constructing that persuasive closing. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about conclusions, of how to create a nice, solid conclusion to an essay. Now, on page 36, Trimble provides a hypothetical situation. He says, well, he, and this is an example of a student writing a paper, is now convinced that the case against capital punishment is the stronger one. The actual proof of the position hasn't yet crystallized in his mind. And there's the rub, that's the problem. Until he can prove it to himself using a coherent line of reasoning, he knows he won't be able to prove it to his reader. The shotgun approach, a blast of unconnected reasons, is out of the question. His essay must be able to say, in effect, here is my position, and this is why any sensible person would accept it. A couple of things in there that I want to unpack. One is this shotgun approach. And as I've kind of said in class and will continue to say, we are all writers. We all have been in writing classes. You took English 101. You've taken other English classes. My goal is to help you work to have conscious control of your writing, to be able to provide evidence clearly, and to work on that critical thinking skill to present information. That is something that is transferable from writing in an English class to whatever your job is going to be, right? Is to say, here is all the evidence and here's how it connects. Also important here is in the hypothetical situation, Trimble points out the importance of being able to prove it to yourself, right? Being able to believe it yourself and have that conviction. This is, again, one of the reasons that I agree with Trimble about the importance of caring about something you're writing about. Well, the broad topic of what makes us human may not be something that totally strikes your fancy. You have found something in there that you care about, that is important to you, that you can become passionate about, and hopefully that will help you work to prove it to yourself. So, even though this is a quick little video, I'll make a secondary video this week with another short lecture to help with closers, and I'd like to do a little bit in that class so we can engage in that discussion. In the meantime, the secret word this week is, what should it be? Assiduous. Assiduous, meaning hardworking. So when you take the reading quiz for this week, that is the word. I'm not putting it up on the screen this time just to mix things up a little bit, and I know some of you prefer to write things, or to listen rather to these video lectures than to watch them. So I'll see you in class. We'll pick up the discussion with quotations, which is what you're going to put into your paragraph. We've covered thesis statements and topic sentences. So your thesis statement makes a claim, your topic sentence makes a secondary claim that backs up the thesis, your evidence supports that topic sentence, and all of your paragraphs together, all those topic sentences and all of that evidence is working to ultimately support that thesis or claim. All right, have a good one. I'll see you in class. Work hard. Email me with questions. Good luck.